Johnson's speech pattern, and which was familiar to my ear at this time from hearing it and so forth.
Jack Nicholson isn't just another Hollywood icon. He is the icon, the master of madness, the king of smooth chaos, the man who could turn a stare into a storm. But that fire didn't just show up one day. It was built from obsession, grind, and a deep love-hate respect for the men he once saw as competition, maybe even enemies. Now at 88, Jack finally dropped the bomb. The 6 actors who carved his genius, the ones who challenged him, shook him, and helped shape the legend we know. Once you hear these names, you'll never see Jack the same again. Let's jump straight into the first one. Robert De Niro, the man who became Jack's secret blueprint. Jack has always said De Niro stands at the top. No one else comes close. Not Brando, not Pacino. De Niro. When Jack talks about him, it's not just praise, it's pure awe. You can hear that mix of admiration and quiet fear in his voice. He once said, "De Niro says more with silence than others say with monologues." That line alone tells you how deep his respect runs. In a world full of actors trying to outshine each other, Jack bows down to the man who barely even raises his voice. De Niro isn't just great, he's the gold standard, a storm that rumbles low but shakes everything around him. Jack watched him vanish inside roles like Mean Streets, Taxi Driver, and Raging Bull, each one pushing the boundaries of realness and madness. Jack once joked, "You don't act with De Niro, you hang on and hope the moment doesn't swallow you." But that laughter carried truth, because even Jack felt the pressure. De Niro made honesty look easy, and that scared even the most fearless actor alive. The two never really shared much screen time, but fate still tied their paths. When The Departed was being cast, the studio first went after De Niro for the mob boss, Frank Costello. He passed, so Jack took it, and what came next was one of his most insane, electric performances ever. Later, Jack confessed something wild. He said it felt like Bob's ghost was still on set. And he wasn't joking. De Niro's shadow hung over that movie like a quiet storm that never left. That's why Jack calls Robert De Niro the blueprint. Even after ruling Hollywood for over half a century, he still swears De Niro's the greatest, the man who barely needs words to own the room. But get ready, because next comes a whole different kind of chaos, the fire Jack could never contain. His second pick burns hotter than the rest. Al Pacino. When Jack talks about Pacino, his tone shifts. It lights up like a live wire. You can feel the heat in his words. He once said, "Al doesn't play characters, he erupts into them." And that couldn't be more real. Jack and Al came up in the same explosive decade, the 1970s, when acting was raw, wild, and all about truth over fame, polish, or rules. The kind of era that built legends and set them on fire. Nicholson was out there breaking every rule with 5 easy pieces and 1 flew over the cuckoo's nest, while Pacino was flipping the script on what intensity even meant with The Godfather and Dog Day Afternoon. Jack couldn't take his eyes off him. Pacino moved like every scene was a matter of survival. His stare, wired with danger, his energy, straight up lightning. During a panel in the early 2000s, Jack dropped one of his most honest lines. He said, "Al has one of the greatest faces in film. You see every thought happen on it, like lightning under the skin. That's pure respect." Jack wasn't just impressed, he was in awe of how Pacino made emotion visible, like it was alive and twitching under his skin. That's what Jack admired most, that fearless honesty, that heat, that wild truth that made every moment feel real. Even though they never got cast as brothers, Jack always swore they felt like family. 2 rebels cut from the same cloth, both driven by hunger, ambition, and the same madness to go further than anyone else. Every role Pacino took felt like a dare to the rest of Hollywood. Corruption in Serpico, obsession in Scarface, guilt in Heat. Each film hit hard, like a punch straight to the gut that left you dizzy but wanting more. Jack once told a close friend, "Pacino reminds me why acting still scares me." And when Nicholson admits fear, that means something huge. Because for a man like Jack to be shaken, the other guys got to be extraordinary. Even today, Jack says Pacino's performances bruise. They leave emotional fingerprints that never fade. Those moments don't die when the credits roll. They hang in the air, echoing long after the lights go out. And then came the one who made Jack go silent, the man whose raw truth left him stunned, Dustin Hoffman. The only actor who ever made Jack Nicholson stop mid-sentence and just listen. When Jack first watched The Graduate, he said it felt like the screen itself was breathing, like anxiety had taken a heartbeat. Jack couldn't shake it. Hoffman didn't perform. He unraveled, piece by piece, right there in front of the camera. Jack once said, "He acts like he can't afford to lie," and that line never left him. It became one of those truths Jack carried for life. Later, he told a friend that Hoffman's honesty hit him harder than any perfectly polished Hollywood act ever could. Both men came up in the same wild, no-rules decade, clawing for a place in an industry that wasn't built for raw truth. Hoffman found his rhythm in Midnight Cowboy and Kramer vs. Kramer, while Jack was setting off his own explosions with Easy Rider and 5 Easy Pieces. They were chasing the same obsession, to make every second on screen real, no acting, no pretending, just pure, unfiltered life pulsing through the frame. During an old roundtable talk, Jack once cracked a line that had everyone laughing. Dustin rehearses the word hello until it sounds like it grew up somewhere. It sounded like a joke, but people in the room could tell. That wasn't mockery, it was pure respect. Hoffman's obsession with detail wasn't about perfection, it was about chasing truth until it screamed back. He'd rip a single line apart, rebuild it, and breathe life into it until it felt real. Jack couldn't get enough of that kind of madness. It was the kind that only geniuses have. Hoffman brought something new to acting, a face that could show every crack of fear, every pulse of honesty. Vulnerability wasn't weakness anymore. Hoffman made it look like power. Jack studied him, trying to understand how someone could make fear look so strong. That's when it hit him. Ego might make you loud, but fear makes you real. Hoffman's style haunted Jack's performances for years. Every time a role demanded truth over polish, you could see that influence. Out of all the actors Jack respected, Hoffman stood apart as the man who turned nerves into fuel and made truth look dangerous. Then came number 4, Paul Newman, the calm that Jack spent his whole life chasing. Everyone in Hollywood respected Paul Newman, but Jack's admiration came from a completely different place, and it surprised people every time he explained it. It wasn't about the blue eyes, the fame, or the awards. What hooked Jack was the quiet danger in Newman's stillness. He once said Newman was the only actor who could make silence feel dangerous. Think about that, doing almost nothing and still owning the whole room. Jack told a close friend that when he first saw The Hustler, he was hypnotized. Newman barely moved, barely spoke, yet every second felt alive and tense. Jack, who built his career on chaos, explosions of emotion, and rule-breaking, suddenly realized there was another kind of power out there. Control, the kind that doesn't shout or fight for attention. It just exists, calm and commanding. When they crossed paths in Hollywood during the late 70s, Jack's whole tone would shift whenever Newman's name came up. He'd say things like, "Newman lived like a man who knew exactly who he was." That kind of peace scared Jack, because he didn't have it. Newman could act, race cars, run charities, and still walk out of a room cool as ice, like he'd never broken a sweat. Jack once summed it up perfectly. He carried fame the way a good driver handles speed. He never lost control. That's not just a compliment, that's a lesson. To Jack, Newman was living proof that true strength doesn't need to scream, explode, or beg for attention. It just stands there, still and unshakable. Paul Newman showed Jack that control itself could be rebellious, a quiet power that hits harder than any outburst. He burned cold, sharp, and steady, and Jack treated that like gospel. You can catch traces of that cool Newman control years later in A Few Good Men and The Pledge. In Jack's own words, he made being great look simple, and that's the hardest trick in the business. And that line, it cuts deeper than it sounds. Because for a man like Nicholson, simplicity was the one thing he could never quite tame. Jack used Newman's calm like a hidden weapon, a quiet blueprint buried inside his loudest, most chaotic characters. But if Newman taught him how to control the storm, the next man taught him how to be the storm itself. Marlon Brando, the god next door who helped shape Jack into a legend. Every actor has that one untouchable hero, and for Nicholson, that hero literally lived next door. 2 Hollywood giants, side by side on Mulholland Drive, separated by one fence and a mountain of wild stories. Jack once said, "Brando changed everything. He made the rest of us rethink what we were doing." That wasn't just praise, that was confession. Back in the 80s, Jack told a close friend that Brando didn't just act, he shifted the atmosphere. That's the kind of power you can't fake. Jack would spend hours re-watching On the Waterfront and A Streetcar Named Desire, studying every flicker, the shoulder shrugs, the low whispers, the half-smirks that cracked open entire scenes. Brando's tiny, unpredictable moves, that quiet chaos, became the DNA of Nicholson's own style. When they finally teamed up for the Missouri Breaks in 1976, Hollywood didn't just get a movie, it got a circus. Brando would skip rehearsals, rewrite entire scenes, even change his marks right in the middle of a take. The crew lost their minds, but not Jack. He stayed cool, locked in, watching Brando like a scientist studying a lightning storm. Later, Jack called it the most unpredictable job of my life, but you could tell, he loved every second of that madness. Off camera, their friendship was a whole other movie, filled with deep late-night talks, strange favors, and long silences that carried more meaning than full conversations. Brando once asked to use Jack's house just to escape the noise, and Jack handed him the keys without a question. That's not just friendship, that's devotion. When Brando passed away in 2004, Jack was devastated. He sent flowers, shut his blinds, and disappeared from sight for days. It wasn't just grief, it was like losing part of his creative soul. Brando had been more than a neighbor. He was the living example of fearless art. Jack later said, "He was the storm that cracked open the sky for the rest of us." That line says it all. Brando didn't just influence Hollywood, he shattered it open. And honestly, you can still feel Brando's ghost in every unpredictable move Jack ever made on screen. That dangerous grin, that sudden shift in tone. It's like Brando's spirit is still standing just out of frame, daring him to go one step too far. And then came the last name on Jack's sacred list, the one he kept for the end because it hit the deepest. Gene Hackman, the working-class truth Jack never forgot. When Jack said Hackman's name, he didn't smile, he nodded, like two craftsmen meeting eye to eye. He once said, "That guy never missed." It wasn't about fame, money, or glamour. What Jack saw in Hackman was honesty. Real, raw, no-nonsense truth that hit the screen like a hammer. Hackman didn't walk onto a set like a star. He walked in like a man punching the clock after a long day. No ego, no drama, just total focus. It was like he was already inside the story before the cameras even rolled. Jack admired that more than anything. That blue-collar energy that said, "This is a job, but it matters." He used to call him the blue-collar genius because Hackman made greatness look like hard work, not magic. That's what drew Jack in. Hackman's performances didn't sparkle, they stung. He didn't need fireworks or fancy tricks. He brought that kind of quiet power that got under your skin and stayed there. Jack often said Hackman reminded him of where he came from, of grit, truth, and the kind of dedication that doesn't need applause to be real. Their paths crossed more times than anyone could count. At premieres, award shows, and those wild Hollywood parties where legends just blended into the crowd. And every single time, Jack found himself studying Gene Hackman like a fan, watching how the man could disappear inside a role and still never lose his rhythm. In The French Connection, Jack saw raw instinct, pure gut work. In Unforgiven, he saw quiet pain, that kind that hides behind the eyes. And in Crimson Tide, he saw something even rarer, total control under pressure, power wrapped up in calm silence that spoke louder than words. Each of those performances reminded Jack of something he felt Hollywood was starting to lose. That fearless, truth-first kind of acting that didn't care about image or fame. Behind the scenes, Jack once told a friend, "If I ever needed someone to carry a film with me, Hackman would be my first call." And that wasn't flattery, it was fact. Jack didn't see Hackman as competition. He saw him as the real deal, a man whose truth on screen spread like wildfire. Jack said it best. He walks in, and suddenly everyone else stops pretending. That's how real Hackman was. No showing off, no drama. Just pure, grounded talent that made everyone around him step up. When Hackman retired in 2004, Jack took it personally. He said, "The business lost a heartbeat," and you could feel the weight in those words, like a whole era of honesty had just vanished overnight. That's exactly why Nicholson ended his list with Gene Hackman, because Hackman represented the one thing Jack valued above everything else: honesty. 6 names, 6 giants, 6 reflections of a single man who turned acting into electricity. Every one of them left a mark that helped shape Jack Nicholson into the wild, fearless force he became, a man forever chasing the truth burning beneath the spotlight. Jack once said that every great actor leaves fingerprints on your soul, and when you look at the 6 men who molded him, you can see those fingerprints all over his legacy. Each one gave him something unique. De Niro gave him focus, Pacino gave him fire, Hoffman gave him honesty, Newman gave him calm, Brando gave him rebellion, and Hackman gave him truth. Put all that together, and you get the perfect storm, the chaos and control that became Jack Nicholson. Even in his later years, that energy never faded. Friends said that when Jack rewatched clips of his own films, he didn't brag about the fame, the awards, or the money. He talked about craft. He'd pause mid-scene, point at the screen, and say things like, "That's where I tried to steal a little Brando," or "That silence, that's pure Newman." He was still studying himself, still chasing what made those moments tick. Jack always believed acting wasn't about pretending. It was about remembering the people who scared you, inspired you, and pushed you to dig deeper than comfort ever could. That's why those 6 names never left his lips. They weren't just influences. They were ghosts that followed him from set to set, whispering through every line, every smirk, every silence. In his final interviews, reporters noticed something whenever Jack mentioned them. His tone would shift. It wasn't nostalgia. It was something deeper, almost sacred. He'd grin, eyes gleaming with that same fire, and say, "Those guys made me honest." And you could tell he meant it, because every lesson they gave him, every spark, every scar, every shadow, showed up somewhere in his work. You can feel De Niro's stillness in The Tension of The Departed, Pacino's heat in A Few Good Men, Hoffman's honesty in The Pledge, Newman's control in About Schmidt, and Brando's rebellion in The Shining. Jack once cracked a joke that had everyone rolling. He said if all 6 of his idols ever starred in one movie together, he'd retire on the spot. "What's left to prove?" he laughed. But behind that grin was something real. Those men were his Mount Rushmore, his personal measure of greatness. The unreachable line he spent his whole life chasing, one role at a time. Even after stepping out of the spotlight, Jack's home in the Hollywood Hills still feels alive with their presence. The walls are covered with old photos from sets, movie posters marked with scribbles, and little notes like, "Truth first, acting second." Every name from his list, De Niro, Pacino, Hoffman, Newman, Brando, Hackman, lives somewhere in that house, like ghosts guarding the craft that defined him. Each frame, each quote, each memory, a quiet reminder of the journey he never stopped walking. In the end, Jack Nicholson's story isn't just about fame or success. It's about how 6 legends built another one. How pieces of De Niro's silence, Pacino's fire, Hoffman's honesty, Newman's balance, Brando's chaos, and Hackman's truth melted together into something uniquely Jack. He didn't just watch them, he absorbed them. He studied their moves, their instincts, their silences, and then turned all of that into his own storm. Decades later, you can still see it. That flicker of De Niro's calm in his stare, that spark of Brando's danger in his grin, that echo of Pacino's rage in his words. 6 men shaped him. But Jack Nicholson turned their lessons into legacy. His story isn't just a list of movies, it's a living map of influence, a roadmap written by 6 giants who transformed raw talent into timeless art. Each one left a piece of themselves inside him, and those pieces never faded. That's what made Jack, even in silence, feel larger than life. When you trace his filmography, you can feel those fingerprints. The stillness from De Niro, how Jack could say everything without speaking a single word. The fire from Pacino, that explosive spark that turned every line into lightning. The truth from Hoffman, that brutal honesty that made every emotion hit hard. The calm from Newman, that quiet control that made chaos look smooth. The rebellion from Brando, that fearless refusal to ever play it safe. And the grit from Hackman, that grounded strength that kept every performance real. Together, those 6 forces became Jack's secret recipe, his creative DNA. And what's crazy is, he never stopped giving them credit. He'd tell people, "Everything I know about this craft, I learned by watching giants." Even when Hollywood crowned him the legend, Jack still looked up at those 6 like a student watching masters at work. That mix of confidence and humility was part of what made him unstoppable. People close to Jack say that when he'd visit old sets or catch his movies late at night, he'd lean back, smirk, and quietly whisper lines from his heroes, a private tribute to the ones who made him who he was. That connection never faded, never cracked. It was personal, spiritual, and real. Proof that greatness doesn't grow in isolation. It grows through inspiration. And now, looking back, those 6 names aren't just part of Nicholson's story. They are the story. The real truth behind the grin, the chaos, and the legend himself. They built him up, challenged him, and pushed him to chase something bigger than fame. Truth that breathes on screen. That's why, even decades later, when Jack's face flashes across a movie screen, you can still feel all 6 of them watching through him, like invisible co-stars shaping every move, every look, every spark of madness. Jack once said, "You don't outgrow your influences, you grow into them." And that line hits hard because it explains everything. He didn't just copy their fire, he grew from it, molded it, turned it into something that could only belong to him. And now, years later, new generations of actors are studying him the same way he once studied them. It's the circle of greatness. Legends creating more legends. So the next time you throw on a Jack Nicholson film and see that crooked grin, that sudden silence, or that flash of danger behind his eyes, remember, you're not just watching one man. You're witnessing the echoes of De Niro's calm, Pacino's fire, Hoffman's truth, Newman's control, Brando's rebellion, and Hackman's grit, all fused together into one unstoppable force of nature. If you loved diving into the mind behind Hollywood's wildest rebel, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It seriously helps the channel grow and keeps stories like this alive. Drop a comment below and tell me, which of Jack's influences shocked you the most? Let's talk about it. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned. We've got more Hollywood secrets, legends, and untold stories coming your way. See you in the next one.